Hello guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. This story is written by Algetty 28 Chapter 2 The Unexpected Visit, A Sister's Concern. On a quiet night, inside his royal chambers, the ruler of a nation, the most powerful demon king ever defeated, was meditating. Time had passed. Weeks. Months. Years. He did not remember how long. He only remembered the day when his close ones that he had revived at the moment of being reborn as Demon King fell ill to later wake up as living dead and create chaos in his home, after searching the world for centuries for an explanation to the incident. However, finding no answers, he lost what little hope he had. That is until one of his close associates questioned him about something. Rimuru, sir, it's been many years since that incident, you should stop tormenting yourself. What happened was not your fault. Don't you think you should leave the past behind? Shuna said, somewhat worried, knowing that no matter how much time passed, every year without fail on the anniversary of what happened he would lock himself in his quarters and not come out until a whole month had passed. She thought that despite being a demon king he wept for the death of his countrymen, but she was far from the truth. Unbeknownst to anyone, he kept Xian's body in his room. He flooded her with mana every year to prevent her deterioration, for no matter how much time passed he was sure that no matter what the method he would bring her back to life. If it wasn't my fault I wouldn't blame myself. She had faith in me, and I failed her. She was sick and I pushed her aside. Worst of all, I know that if I had stayed by her side when she started with her headache I could have done something to help her, said Rimuru, serene, while looking at the night sky through a window. But still, we don't know if. Shuna answered somewhat nervously. But Rimuru interrupted her. I know. I'm sure it would have been so, he said, somewhat annoyed. Although inside he knew the truth. Not even Seal, who had the most detailed knowledge of everything, knew what happened. Which made Rimuru even surprised at such an event. For the first time in his whole life, he had the doubt of something that escaped his comprehension. For the first time the most powerful and feared Demon King had encountered a question that he could not find an answer to. He dismissed Shuna and accompanied him to the door, asking him to leave him alone. He took a bottle of alcohol and began to drink it. He sat in the chair in front of the window until he felt the presence of someone in his room. Can I go now? Rimuru said, somewhat depressed. It was Sadashi, one of the Shadow Squad's intelligence and espionage agents, daughter of Sue and Soka, two of the main intelligence heads in Tempest. That's right, sir, she already left the compound. You can go now, she said seriously, while holding a bouquet of roses and two wolf-stuffed animals in the shape of puppies, to which Rimuru took them in his hands and opened a portal in front of him. He was about to leave when Rimuru asked him to accompany him, for he didn't want to do this alone. Are you sure about that, sir? Questioned the girl, to which he only replied by nodding his head in affirmation. And so they both crossed the portal. Arriving at the place, Rimuru knelt down and placed the bouquet of roses and the stuffed animals next to the tombstones that were under a leafy tree on the highest plateau of the region. The place where some little girls had lived for many years was now their final resting place. An inscription decorated the small tombstones in memory of Shalsha and Falfa Aizawa. My beloved daughters, they were the daughters of the girl who sent me to watch. Sadashi questioned somewhat wistfully. That's right, and in part you could say that they were also my daughters, answered Rimuru in a sad way. Hearing that, in her mind came memories that she lived with them before that tragic day. Memories of him visiting the girls occasionally, sometimes bringing them sweets and treats, other times toys and cookies and even books and clothes. You could say he was a spoiled father. Even though he knew they were Azusa's daughters, he felt like their father as he used some of his magic to help bring them back to life. Azusa was a good mother. She took care and spoiled the girls in an incredible way. You could say she was the best mother in the world. She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve this, said Rimuru to himself, as a visitor arrived at the grave. Mr. Rimuru, what are you doing here? Said the girl as she knelt down. It was Pecora, the leader of the demons who was now visiting the girls' abode. Stand up, please. At this moment I am not here as a demon lord, but as a visitor, Rimuru pointed out. Sir, you shouldn't blame yourself for. Pecora pointed out, but Rimuru interrupted her. She's still blaming me, isn't she? He questioned. Yes, she answered in a low voice. It's been years and yet I don't forgive myself either. I've spent decades looking for an answer, a solution. But I haven't found anything, I affirm. While remaining on my knees, Pecora stands next to him and puts her hand on his shoulder. We too. Even Beelzebub spent part of his last days looking for an answer, but we found nothing, I affirm. They were supposed to have my protection. My people, the girls. They were supposed to be immortals? Pecora replied. No. That they were dependent on me. They were supposed to be connected to me. That I could feel what they felt. That I could know when they needed me. But little by little that connection faded away, she answered. In a dejected way. I guess there are times when we can't be on top of everything. I am a demon king, ruler of a nation. I have the greatest power of all. And yet I don't understand what happened. Me too. I am the demon king, regent of the demon nation of this world. I have a power greater than that of any race. Except for my dear older sister. And yet, we turn to you to help your daughters, she affirmed. That I know perfectly well. What point are you getting at? Rimuru stated somewhat curiously. We seek the help of someone out of this world, Pecora pointed out. But suddenly an enraged voice was heard loudly. The voice of an angry mother echoed in the place. Get the hell out of here, Tempest. Pointed at the furious girl, a young and beautiful girl with a long blonde hair. Azusa. Rimuru said but shut up soon, as he still didn't have the courage to be able to look her in the face, so he turned back to the floor. I won't say it again. Get the hell out of here, the girl said furiously. The girl's anger never went down, for in her eyes he was the one to blame for not only giving the girls hope of life, but also for making them live a hell by being controlled by that disease and made them unleash chaos. Ma'am, with all due respect, your daughters were not the only ones who spoke Sadashi but was stopped with a look from Rimuru. Maybe. But the difference is that Rimuru who didn't dirty her hands to stop her compatriots who scourged her city. I had to live the pain of killing with my own hands my two beloved daughters. That pain still follows me and torments me, he said while holding his head. To see and feel the pain they suffered when they were turned into those things is indescribable. And she said, holding back tears until she could not hold back anymore. I killed my daughters. I killed them. Do you know the pain a mother has when she does that? Do you know the anguish I lived through all these years? My friends died. My precious daughters are no longer with me. I am alone in this world. An immortal who has seen her loved ones die without being able to do anything to stop it, she said as she broke down in tears as she expressed her feelings. Rimuru listened to every word she said and slowly went into a depression. Until she stood up to leave and with a weak voice whispered, I'm sorry. So she opened a portal and crossed it together with her companion. Arriving at his quarters, Sadashi was about to retire when she assaulted him with a question. Excuse me, sir. Who are you talking to before Mrs. Azusa arrived? Something that snapped him out of his thoughts. What do you mean, with whom? It was Pecora, the demon king of that world, Rimuru pointed out. Was it her spirit or something? He questioned. What are you talking about? I point out doubtfully. Sir, according to the reports of the last few years, Lady Pecora died some time ago. 20 years to be precise, she stated. What? In one of the many enclosures of the Divine Kingdom, under a large tree that decorated the place, Tuya awaits the arrival of one of his companions. A divinity that in times past was self-named as his older sister, Karen, the goddess of love, the personification of romance, affection and attachment among living beings. You're late, Tuya, said the deity, somewhat annoyed. What do you want, goddess of love? Tuya said somewhat seriously. Hey. I'm still your big sister, have a little more respect, she said pouting. Since they're not with me anymore, I think we should drop that facade. He said, avoiding looking her in the eyes. It may have sounded rude, or even hurtful to Karen, Tuya's behavior, but just seeing her sister made her remember the times she spent with her wives, the advice she gave them, and even the experiences they had. Sometimes he would get upset with her for talking about other things, even when he told his then fiancés about the first love he had as a child, but he understood that it was the role he was playing. Karen took the role of the older sister to help the girls understand a little of what Tuya was like before. She took the role of a sister to be a bridge between Tuya's past and his fiancés. It's been a long time, I think you should, said Karen, but was interrupted by Tuya. Say I'm over it again and I'll get out of here right now. I'm sick of you always coming out with that. Besides, I've been busy lately, I said. Somewhat annoyed. Are you annoyed? She asked. For a moment silence reigned until the whispering of the wind changed the mood with Tuya's question. What do you want? Karen. What did it cost you to talk to me by my name? She pointed out to which. He just turned around and started walking. That's when she reacted by grabbing his arm. Wait, where are you going? If you're not going to talk now, I won't stay waiting for your little games. I'm very busy. I have duties waiting for me, mentioned the boy somewhat seriously. It was true, since his last wife passed away, he was immersed in his divine duties. He was looking for anything to keep himself busy and stop thinking a little about his sadness. His wives may have told him that he was strong and that he would overcome that loss, but sometimes reality is not as beautiful as imagination paints it. It's just that you haven't rested, and I wanted you to sit down and relax at least for today, she pointed out, somewhat worried. Today? What do you mean? I asked curiously. Today is your anniversary, and I think, she said, trying to guide him to the seat while from a basket she took out some snacks. Suddenly an aroma began to fill the room. Really? He reacted, somewhat surprised. Indeed. They were snacks handmade by the goddess of love, following the recipes and steps that one of Tuya's wives had taught her. It took many years for her to match it, but with practice Karen learned to make the snacks that Lu made for Tuya. When he went out of the house, Karen smiled at Tuya as she guided him to sit down, but he refused and in a somewhat weak voice whispered, Why do you do it? Why do you remind me of my pain? I'm sorry. Forgive, he said, the somewhat sentimental as he walked until he faded away and left the place. I'm sorry, Tuya. I know you're not ready, but you have to get over it soon, she said, talking to herself. It's still the same, isn't it? Was heard behind Karen. It was Moroha, the sword goddess, another of Tuya's self-appointed sisters. Yes, it's still the same, she pointed out somewhat sadly. If he doesn't concentrate, he may fail the test, said Moroha. I know, but I have faith that he will pull through, replied Karen. You sound very confident, she pointed out. I guess I can say it's a brotherly instinct, Karen pointed out, closing her eyes and turning her head upwards as if she was remembering something.